At this oval, next Saturday afternoon, Newcastle plays Great Britain, and there should be about 20,000 people here. It'll be a big game, and a big game for some Newcastle players. 2 Australian selectors will be visiting the ground, no doubt to try and find some new talent for the Australian side that was so soundly beaten by Great Britain last week. I feel that Father John Cootes will be a certainty to go into the next Australian team, so they may not be watching him. Johnny Raper is one that comes to mind in the second row position as a dictator of play, and this could be what the selectors are looking for. Carl Hutchison, the solid front row forward, might be another one that they've got their eyes set on, and Alan Jones, the hooker. Of the others, no doubt the boys will be out to impress the selectors, and of course it will be a big day for Newcastle when Great Britain plays Newcastle at the Newcastle Sports Ground next Saturday.
Everyone knows Sir Alan Fairhall, possibly no one more than the electors of Patterson, whom he's represented for 19 years. And here in Maitland, the electors gave him a sort of official farewell and thank you at a big dinner. Tell me, is this your official farewell to politics?
Not an official farewell from politics as such, because I intend to remain a member of the Liberal Party, of course. I'm addicted to politics. One just can't switch off altogether. But it'll be a rather extracurricular activity from here on.
I more or less expected you say you resigned from active political life when you quit
Well,
Parliament.
that's true. I've resigned from politics, retired from politics, but not from an interest in politics or what goes on.
Well, in view of your retirement, you've been sort of pretty cautious in speaking publicly since you quit Parliament. Will this continue even now?
I think I was always pretty cautious when I was in Parliament. No, I think it's a bad thing for a retired member of Parliament to go on making pronouncements about matters with which he was concerned. Added, of course, to that is the fact that the further you get away from politics, from active politics in time, the less valuable becomes your information, and therefore you're in a poorer spot to make comments than before. No, I'll talk about political philosophy as much as you like, but I think I'll keep away from active pronouncements on political matters as affecting, say, government policy.
Well, what does Sir Alan Fairhall do with his time now that he's out of the House of Representatives?
Well, I'm pretty busy. Instead of sitting down and working with my head, I'm now standing on my feet and working with my hands. I'm giving my son a hand in a business he's building, remembering the time when I built one for myself, and I hope he does as well, that's all.
But have you any sort of plans for the future? You want to build a business of your own?
No, I don't particularly, no. I always said, of course, that I had about one more good burst of commercialism in me. I don't know whether that's true or not, but as you know, I've become associated with several boards, most of Australian companies, because my great interest in the political years has been to develop Australian interests in Australia's own future. I've had an old-fashioned idea that really Australians don't invest enough in the development of their own country. So I hope to keep on giving that philosophy a push.
Speaking as a citizen now or as a politician?
No, I'm speaking as citizen, politician, businessman, whatever. But basically, if you don't mind me using the term, as a patriot who wants to see this country get ahead.
A lot of people have said that you've got a burst of commercialism left. You had another burst of politics left. Why didn't you hang on a little longer?
Well, that's a good question, you know, but there comes a time when the hurly-burly of politics begins to get you physically. And there's no future in politics for a man who's not really at the top of his form physically. You know, I don't think the average man in the street understands the kind of burden which is carried by a Member of Parliament. I can talk about it now. I couldn't before because then you were looking for sympathy. But, you know, now, quite objectively, I can say it's a tremendous load for any Member of Parliament, particularly any minister, to carry. And I assure you it wears you pretty thin after 20 years.
Especially the Defence Ministry.
That had something to do with it, yes.
Well, now that this is all behind you,
That's right.
a place in commercial life for yourself? No, just helping.
No, I'm maintaining those interests which will keep my mind active on Australian affairs. After all, I've been interested in the development of Australia in business and so on these 20 years. You just can't put all that behind you suddenly, nor would I want to, because I think 20 years gives you an insight on public affairs. It gives you a window on the world which otherwise you don't get. It would be a pity to waste all that experience. I don't propose to do that.
Without wanting to seem perhaps sarcastic, does 20 years, or nearly 20 years in Parliament and a knighthood now make you feel like a sort of elder statesman of Australia?
Oh no, I've never felt that at all. You know, there are a lot of elder statesmen in Australia and some good men, but no, I've thought only of serving the country while I was there. Now that I'm out, well, I can go on serving, but in a minor key. But I'm awfully interested to see what my successors in parliamentary affairs do with the country.
Without comment?
Without public comment, yes.
With that quiet reservation, we'll leave our guest of honour for this evening, Sir Alan Fairhall.
Father John Coots, Newcastle's Australian Rugby League representative, may not be able to play against Great Britain at Newcastle on Saturday, owing to an injured knee. This will not be officially known until tomorrow night. But in the meantime, who could possibly be his replacement? Jim Campbell could come into 5'8" perhaps, and Jim Bonus go into the centre. John Leese from the Waratah Club is a very good centre and is playing quite well, and young McDermott from the Souths Club could also come under consideration. The reserve is Peter Howlett, and I feel at this stage just a little bit too inexperienced to be sent in against the Englishmen. Maybe in a divisional game, this is where the young players should have been tried. My pick would be Peter Diamond, the rugged Australian player who knows the Englishman's style of game and will certainly serve Newcastle well. Anyhow, we'll soon see, won't we?
Owen Griffiths, one of the divers from the Newcastle Underwater Research Group, made the find. It's a section of an engine from an old paddle wheel steamer. Remnants of the vessel are still there. She was about 200 feet long, Owen estimates. The markings are a little difficult to read. Caird and Company, Engineers, Greenock, and the date 1851. There's also a maker's number, number 57. One of the men from Newcastle Ship Lovers Society who's made a close study of wrecks in Newcastle area is Mr. Terry Callan. And I understand that this could well have come from the wreck of the Yarra Yarra, which foundered on the 15th of July 1877.
Yes, that's correct. I would say it is from the Yarra Yarra. Everything points to that fact. She was a ship collier running coal to Sydney, and she got into a storm off the port here and ran back for shelter and sank about half a mile from the entrance, so the records say. And she would have had machinery much about the size and age of this particular piece here.
Now, a collier, this is a bit of a come down for the Yarra Yarra. She started life much differently.
That's true. She was a crack passenger ship for the old ASN company running between Sydney and Melbourne.
What period would this be?
Well, that's from the date of a build, which was in the early 50s, up till the 1870s, about 20 years on the passenger run, and then she was sold, as so many of them were, and became a collier.
She had one very famous trip to Tasmania, I believe.
Oh yes, she was said to have brought the news to Tasmania that the convict transportation had ceased. That was in the 1860s, I think.
Well, it's interesting to think that this object hasn't seen the light of day for probably 93 years.
Yes, it'd be all of that if it were the Yarra Yarras, I think it must be.